Hello again. This is Joe Stokley, broker owner of Stokley Properties, full service property management, covering the greater Walnut Creek Contra Costa area. Today, I have attorney Mr. Nick Rocha joining us. Thanks for being here today, Nick. Nick specializes in the area of real estate law and business. And we wanted to talk to Nick today to explain, in his words, the benefits of an investor that has a property manager that works with a experienced professional real estate attorney. Nick, in your own words, can you tell us why that's a benefit to people?
Sure can, Joe. And first, let me say that I have been practicing law here in California for 20 years. My specialty is in residential and commercial real estate transactions and litigation. So maybe you've come to the right guy to ask some of these questions. I think the residential landscape in particular is fraught with a lot of legal issues and pitfalls for an unwary owner. Somebody who doesn't know the ins and outs of both listing a property, leasing a property, the rights of a tenant during the property, and then especially how to terminate a tenancy properly, and if necessary, how to file an unlawful detainer action to properly get a tenant out without violating that tenant's rights. So I think with that giant umbrella in mind, I think an attorney is vital when it comes to navigating those waters of a residential tenant market.
Do you believe, in your experience, when a real estate owner that owns a rental property, if they're coming in solo, that they're not represented by a property manager compared to when they are represented by a property manager? Is it a smoother transaction, a smoother process to deal with whatever legal needs there needs to be done? Or is it more complicated as somebody that's kind of, been rogue and hasn't had the coaching or the assistance of a professional property manager when they meet you finally?
That's a great question. And I think when an owner comes in and they contact me and they haven't had counsel in the past, and they're trying to, let's say, get a tenant out of the property, one of the issues is that we see that they don't have the proper lease forms a lot of times. I've had experiences where we're dealing with a California property and they bring me an Alabama lease that we pulled off the internet from maybe 10 years ago. The legislature constantly changes the requirements for what's required in a lease. For instance, you need Megan's Law database disclosures and a bunch of other things that are newer. And if you don't know that, if you don't have an attorney to go back to and say, hey, take a look at my lease, you may be starting off from the wrong point and you may be in trouble already. On the tail end of that, if you're trying to evict somebody, you better have the right notices, because the courts in California are very severe in protecting the tenant's rights on an eviction. If you ask for too much rent, if you don't use the proper wording, if you don't have the most recent language protective of tenants in your notices, you could file that, but you're going to lose, and you could pay your tenant attorney's fees, and then you're going to have to start all over again. So I think having that legal advice at the outset is kind of it's better than saying, I'm going to save the money now and deal with it later. It's penny wise, pound foolish.
I agree.
You're going to spend so much more money fixing the issues that you've caused already.
No, I agree. In our representing our clients, we are, full disclosure and transparent when we say, hey, this is what we do well, but if it ever gets to this point, and it's the last resort, but when it's an eviction in this situation, I say we need to seek legal counsel and a lawyer, somebody who specializes in that. And Mr. Nick Rocha is the go-to guy that we use for that. What other advice could you give to people that own investment properties as a way to stay out of trouble? Like, what are the main one or two things you see that, hey, if people could avoid doing that, the world would be a better place?
Well, other than making sure that you do all the proper steps or take all the proper steps when you're first leasing the property, the other thing is making sure that you honor the tenant's rights during the tenancy. We have some tenants who sue the landlords who aren't represented by counsel because that landlord has decided to go into the property without proper notice. They're bothering the tenant. The tenants have rights of quiet enjoyment, and if you violate those rights, you can open yourselves up to litigation and damages. So that's one of the main things, is making sure that you understand the rights of both the tenant and the landlord during the tenancy, and you honor both sides.
Okay. What's the second most train wreck that you see happen that's totally avoidable, that unknown or uneducated landlords do, that they end up on your doorstep for help?
Most of them involve improper use of the termination process.
Okay.
And that would involve including improper amounts in a 3-day notice. For example, as you well know, you can only include rent in a 3-day notice to pay rent or quit.
Right, no late
You
fees.
can't add late fees or utility charges, and you'd have to use a separate notice for that. If you do that and you go all the way through the process and you've been kicked out of court, now you're contacting me or somebody like me for assistance when you could have saved that time contacting a property management company or an attorney at the outset.
Excellent, excellent. I want to thank Nick for joining us today. And like always, thanks for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Again, this is Joe Stokley with Stokley Properties. Have a good day.